We have some breaking news. A federal judge just ruled that both President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth violated the law by using the military in the Los Angeles area over the summer. The Trump administration deployed thousands of federalized California National Guard members and Marines during.
What does it cost this judge to do this? I haven't seen the story yet. This is my first reaction off the rip, trying to see what are they going to lose? Like, let's say, so a judge turns around and says, you can't protect your federal, essentially what they're doing, they were protecting their federal buildings, they were protecting their personnel, federal personnel in the confines of Los Angeles. The judge turns around and says, it's illegal, Trump, what you did. How do we stop this? Right? I'm not saying that the administration can't be sued or whatever. Like, you have to leave some sort of a legislative and like legal avenues for people that feel that they've been wronged. But just to unilaterally say what you did is illegal, like what are the consequences? The answer is there are none, right? Because judges are appointed for life. There's not much they can do. As long as it's within the purview of what they're doing, then they have no consequences.
An immigration crackdown in June. And this decision comes as the president weighs, as we were just talking about, whether to send National Guard members to other cities, as he has done in Washington, D.C.
But what's the purview that he's sending those National Guards? That is, right, maybe they'll get into it, but right now they're glossing over the fact, or many news outlets are glossing over the fact that he's sending the personnel to do immigration enforcement, right? So yes, he is sending federal troops, federal agents, federal personnel to cities, but within their purview. They're allowed to be there when they're enforcing immigration, and they're allowed to be protected by, I don't know, maybe whatever means necessary. I don't know. Like, why is it such a big deal?
Joining us now is former federal prosecutor and Politico magazine senior writer Ankush Khardori. Ankush, thank you for coming here. So what is the judge's reasoning here?
Well, the judge's reasoning is fairly straightforward. He says that the Posse Comitatus Act prevents the deployment of the military on U.S. soil for normal law enforcement operations. And he held, after conducting a trial on this matter, that the National Guard was deployed in California for normal law enforcement operations, arrests, searches, stops, helping execute search warrants and things like that. And he said that this is illegal. And one thing I would point out that may get lost in the shuffle as we cover this is not really going to be relevant given the president runs the Justice Department effectively, but violations of the Posse Comitatus Act are a crime under ordinary circumstances, a low-level crime, but a crime nonetheless.
So what would the consequences be potentially for the president or defense secretary, also given the fact that this is after the National Guard had been deployed there and then left?
Yeah, so as to the criminal side, I mean, again, I don't expect the Justice Department to do anything about this since it's now the Trump Justice Department. With respect to the civil, on the civil side, though, you're right that most of the National Guard members are gone, but the judge said that there's still some remaining here. So even if it's in the low hundreds, his order requires them essentially to leave or to
So a federal judge, right? So he's saying nothing's going to happen, right? Nothing's going to happen on the legal side or whatever. So what that's saying is it's for a news headline. That's number one. Number two, so if there's a few hundred troops left, the judge's order is telling them that they have to send these troops home. So who's the commander in chief here? Who's if a judge can just start you just start saying, yeah, you know, I don't like this, I don't like that, executive order this, executive order that. What the hell is going on? The judge is saying send those troops back. How is a judge in charge of troops?
Stop engaging in the conduct that was at issue here.
So then how do you expect this legal decision to impact President Trump's plans to possibly deploy National Guard troops to other
It's not going to. He's just going to push forward, obviously.
cities like Chicago or New York, especially after he has done so here in D.C.? And what does it mean for the National Guard troops here in D.C. right now?
This is the National Guard in D.C. operates under different legal frameworks. So this doesn't really tell us much about the legality of the National Guard deployment in D.C. With respect to LA and California, I would expect DOJ to appeal. We'll see. As for the effect of this decision on the administration's decision to deploy the National Guard in other states, look, under ordinary circumstances, under prior administrations, you would expect the White House to take this extremely seriously or to deter them from those sorts of deployments. We do not know, given the way that this administration has conducted itself, whether.
So it's just for a headline. It's just for people to say, for politicians and for the news anchors to go out there and say it was declared illegal by a federal judge. That is the only reason this happened. And if like, how are people? I mean, I understand. People are in their echo chamber. People are in their bubble. They're going to be blind to this. All they're going to see is that a federal judge deemed that this was illegal. That's what they want to see. That's what they want to run with. That's what all the politicians are going to have as their number one talking point. It's going to be ready to go. Been deemed illegal by a federal judge. You watch now. Going forward now, every single talking head in the news, every single politician, they're going to say it was deemed illegal by a federal judge. That's going to be the talking point. And that's what this is all about. That's what it's always all about. It's just about having a, some type of little spin that you could put on it. Just something. It doesn't have to go anywhere. It doesn't have to do anything. He said it himself. This is not going to go anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere. It's just to make the headline. It's just for the chyron at the bottom. It's just for the Instagram reel or whatever. That's what it's all about.
It will actually take that position because, as we learned during the sort of the Supreme Court litigation over the injunctions, the universal injunctions, you may recall, the Justice Department's position was effectively we can kind of do whatever we want, whatever jurisdiction, unless and until we get a circuit court ruling or an appeals court ruling. So they may decide to plow ahead. Last thing I'll just say here is that even if they, I think, were to decide to do so, I think one of the reasons we've seen them pull back a bit is because polling showed that these deployments of the National Guard were quite unpopular, both in California and even more recently in DC on a national level.
Okay. And again, this is how you parse out the news. This is how you take the bullshit, you unspin it, and you see what he's actually saying. Polling was not good for the National Guard being deployed in DC. Countrywide polling. What about the people in DC? Have you seen those videos? Have you seen people talk to people on the ground in DC and what they're saying? Right? So you could take all the polling that you want, and what are those polls? Who are they testing? Right? If you ask someone in Arkansas, "Hey, do you want national troops in DC?" Yeah, if they're a lefty, they'll probably say no, right? Because they're anti-Trump. Wherever the person is, he's going to say whatever this administration is doing is bad, no matter what. Now, take the lefties in DC and ask them. Go straight to them and ask them, what do they think? So on the ground, I've seen tons of videos, it's anecdote, I know, but I guarantee you, if you poll actual DC residents, are they happy with what's going on? They're going to say yes, because they're not getting murdered. That's kind of a big deal. Not getting carjacked. They're not getting robbed. Safety is paramount. Without safety, you have nothing. Without safety, nothing else matters. If you can't leave your house, if you can't walk down the street, if you can't go to work, if you can't send your kids to school, nothing else matters. So I guarantee you, these people that are so shocked and like disturbed that there's a National Guard troop there, when their child is walking along the sidewalk and going to school, and there's a National Guard troop there, they're probably pretty damn happy about it, right? I mean, let's be real honest. You send your kids to school, and National Guard, and there's a guard there waiting there. If somebody f's with your child, that they're going to step in. Going to tell me that's not a good thing? I'm not saying they're going out there and doing enforcement, but as a presence to say, listen, stop effing around, clean this shit up, right? We're trying to function a freaking society over here, and it's chaos in all these cities.
Not as lopsided as the California deployment, but unpopular nonetheless.
And does this also show you how difficult it is to really challenge once the president deploys a National Guard in cities, right? I mean, that's been a big topic of discussion. What are city officials like in Chicago and elsewhere? How are they going to do this if the president plows ahead with this plan? Because in this case, this was after the fact, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And actually, this judge tried to issue a ruling very early on, reaching effectively the same result, but he got overturned by the Ninth Circuit. Now, if you are the lawyers in those other jurisdictions and you expect or are thinking there may be a National Guard deployment, you should be using this decision sort of as an intellectual template for you, right? It lays out a set of standards that if you are the lawyers in those jurisdictions, you now want to adopt, and provides a level of analysis at the factual level that sort of gives you a roadmap for determining, okay, if I'm going to challenge the National Guard in my jurisdiction, I need to establish X, Y, and Z. And you'd want to follow the court's ruling pretty carefully just to demonstrate that you're following this authority. So I think you could see the upshot of that is I think you could see swifter responses as a result of this decision in jurisdictions where the National Guard.
In the end, what are you going to do? Like, what the hell are you guys going to do? He sends in the National Guard. What are you going to have? Are you going to have the local police throw out the National Guard? No, obviously this stuff is going to have to be litigated after the fact. That is there's no way you're gonna prevent the commander in chief of the armed services from sending people anywhere. It's just not going to happen. It'll be an absolutely after the fact ruling, and they'll say don't do that again. If in fact it was actually found to be illegal, they're going to appeal it, and then maybe you can find a couple of circumstances that maybe shouldn't have happened, that maybe were illegal, that maybe were outside of the scope of what they should have been doing. But overall, if they're protecting federal buildings, federal employees, and federal operations, I'm not sure how that's not justified. But you guys let me know in the comments what you think. Hit that subscribe button, please. It does me a lot of good. I'm a small channel trying to grow. 6283 Talk on the X. I'm John Soto, and I will see you again on the next video. Take care.